Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the part 2 on how to properly handle conflict in your relationship. In my last video, I talked about all the things that you should not do or completely avoid when you're trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship. So if you haven't seen that video, I ask that you go back and watch it. And if you're just coming across me for the first time, please do well to subscribe and turn on your notification button for future videos and do all the good stuff that the big YouTubers tell you to do and you do. I'm banking on your support for this channel to grow. And we're gonna jump right into the things that are absolute yes when it comes to resolving a conflict in your relationship. The number one thing to keep in mind when trying to properly handle a conflict in your relationship is to keep an open mind. The idea of keeping an open mind can be a little tricky when you have to put it in practice. The thing is, when something happens, when we go through an experience, we are bound to create our own conclusion on that experience. Hence the saying, your truth, my truth, and the truth. And sometimes we hang on to what we perceive to be our truth so tightly that it's hard to even see or listen or even fathom the possibility that there could be a different angle to what you perceive to be your truth. So just maybe the truth could be a little different from what your truth is. So keeping an open mind helps you not be too stringent or too headstuck on something that has happened. So this is what keeping an open mind look like when you're trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship. Make an effort to listen and understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree at the end of the day. Secondly, try to find out what their intention was, not the one you've created in your head. Because sometimes when there's a conflict, it is easy for intentions to be misinterpreted or misconstrued. So it is very important to take the time to find out and understand what the other person's intention was. And thirdly, try not to be so stringent on your own idea of things. Allow yourself to see the possible loophole in your emotions and feelings, because it's possible that you might just be misunderstanding the situation. The second thing to keep in mind when you're trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship is to fight fair. When we are actively trying to resolve a situation in our relationship, sometimes it looks like a little court session. And in those moments, there is potential for emotions to fly high. Things could be argumentative or even heated. In those moments, you have to self-assess to understand what your goals are as far as resolving that particular situation at that time. To focus on your goals in that moment, whatever that may be. It might be to get understanding of a situation you possibly misunderstand, or to get a clarification on something you cannot make sense of, or even to solve the problem in general. Remember, when there is a problem and you're trying to resolve it with the other person, it is not you against the person in that moment. It is you and that person against the problem. The third thing to keep in mind when trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship is validation and acknowledgement. Sometimes when we're in conflict with someone, it's easy to diminish the other person's opinion or even dismiss their feelings on the matter. But the truth is, everyone is entitled to their feelings. Everyone has feelings. You cannot tell the other person how to feel, just as you will not want them to tell you how to feel. So it helps for you to, at the very least, acknowledge that person, acknowledge what they are feeling, and validate those feelings by simply saying, I see why this thing could make you feel this way. Now let me explain. Now let me clarify. Now let me make you understand. That can take away all kinds of back and forth, all kinds of anger, if you can just bring yourself down to a place where you simply treat the other person as a human being. The fourth thing to keep in mind when trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship is responsibility and accountability. When you're in a conflict with someone, you gotta understand, it takes two to tango. It cannot always be the other person. So instead of spending so much time dissecting and analyzing what the other person did wrong, what the other person should have done differently, how the other person contributed to the conflict, it helps to self-assess too. to see how you might have contributed to the conflict yourself. Also see what you would have done differently. To also see the role you play in creating that conflict in the first place. To see areas that you can hold yourself responsible for and areas that you can take accountability for and make the changes that need to be made. It allows you to show grace to the other person when you are able to hold yourself accountable and take responsibility. The fifth and perhaps not the last thing to keep in mind when trying to resolve a conflict in your relationship is to talk, to listen, and to understand. Oh yes, I had to put all three of them together. When you're actively trying to resolve a conflict, it is not time for you to hold back. When I say hold back, I'm not talking about it is time for you to unleash all the arsenal on the other person. I'm talking about it's not time for you to hold back how you honestly feel about the situation or how that situation might have affected you. It's time for you to express your feeling in an honest way. In doing so, you give the other person the opportunity to give you a well-deserved explanation or properly clarify something that you might have misunderstood or perhaps re-emphasize their intentions. To get that, you have to listen. You have to listen to understand, not to listen to respond. And when you allow yourself to properly listen or listen to understand, you'll find out that you are not just listening for yourself, or you will not just get an understanding just for yourself. You will understand the other person. And it helps to move things along once you gain an understanding on both levels, not just understanding for yourself. That brings me to the end of the series on how to properly handle conflict in your relationship. I hope that you have learned something or you've enjoyed hearing me talk. I ask that you go back to watch the old video so you can see you can get the whole experience on this topic, or you can get the full picture of this topic and learn on the things you have to do, the things that can help you resolve a conflict, and the things that will not do you any good when you're trying to fix a situation between somebody you care about. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.